Hey, gods and goddesses. On August 12th, 2025, Venus and Jupiter form a conjunction at 14 degrees in Cancer. We are finally feeling the blessings and getting the blessings of Jupiter being in Cancer. It is in its exalted sign. So this is one of the most emotionally rich and protective alignments of the year. This alignment occurs in Cancer. Cancer is a water sign that is ruled by the moon, and it is associated with our emotional security, our family, our home, our ancestry, motherhood, in fact, even the past. Cancer rules the base and honestly the most deepest part of our chart, which is at the bottom. Our childhood where we grow. Venus is a planet of love, it's a planet of beauty, relationships, partnerships, our values. And Jupiter represents growth and it represents abundance, spiritual expansion, our higher self, higher knowledge. It's a very generous planet that offers a lot of wisdom, and together in Cancer they amplify emotional intelligence, compassion, maternal love, safety. They can amplify like prosperity and things and matters that are tied to like the home. That can associate with like caregiving, creativity, feeling like you belong. That is the Cancer, your Cancer house as well. This is a deeply sensitive, nurturing alignment that really expands everything that it touches. It wants to grow whatever house that is going to touch for you, and it wants to amplify the things that you truly care about. What this alignment can bring, because I said Jupiter, likes to expand, Venus, likes matters of the heart. So these things can bring like this emotional connection. It can bring like this increased desire for closeness, a renewed appreciation for like softness and vulnerability and caring. And you could feel very affectionate, even more affectionate, more protective over the things that matter to you. You can feel very in tune with your own needs and the needs of others. Also, love is a very healing factor, and Venus is definitely going to teach us that, because Cancer rules the emotional body, our past memories. And when we put Venus and Jupiter together here, this is a potential for major heart healing. And especially around, our childhood wounds, our childhood memories, trauma, like these family dynamics that we grew up in, also our ancestry, and also like our attachment patterns. Cancer can rule like enmeshment, and can rule things that have to do with like repairing relationships with family. And it can also rule like how we feel safe and how we nurture ourselves and nurture the next person. So we are creating these new emotional foundations, which is pretty good, because this conjunction can bring favors in like relationships. The fourth house can be seen as your partner as well. How you're deeply supportive of them, how you're emotionally supportive of them, how you're intimate with them, whether it's long lasting. And there's a greater chance of like openness to commit, openness to caring, and this tenderness, and relationships that are formed or evolve can now feel like they're faded, or they're protected, or they're spiritually fulfilling, or they're aligned. Even when we talk about like these ancestral, wounds, or ancestral blessings too can be seen in the fourth house and our family. This is a powerful moment for family connections. This is a powerful moment that can bring growth to the family, maybe through reunions, forgiveness, deeper bonding, pregnancy. And you can receive like this insight, wisdom, we're talking about Jupiter, or even these resources from your ancestry that do have to do with the past. Some have to do with the past, some have to do with like renewing the past. But this can bring, and we can talk, because we're talking about Venus, this can talk about wealth. This can talk about these inherited values that are actually useful, and that can bring blessings, to you through your roots. And the fourth house is actually talking about, our security, our comfort, our feeling like we belong. And this is a strong transit that can promote abundance, like this financial ease, or just like when it comes to matters of like work and monies, it's just coming together with like these meaningful efforts that you're putting towards, things such as like art, caregiving, writing, things that have to do with children if you work with children, healing motherhood, any type of like domestic home business, it can bring some type of ease, or some type of meaningful result to it. And projects that are like rooted in love, and things that are rooted in love and care can actually flourish. Now, things that you take care of, monies can come through like these maternal figures. It can come through family. It can come through your emotional investments, like what you put your time into, and growth can actually come as well. Fertility, if you're looking for, to grow your family, this can be literal, or this can be just having this fertile ground, to actually plant something that is meaningful to you. It can do with like new ideas. You can think about new ideas, you can think about relationships, or ending or starting these emotional chapters. It's like anything that you plant now, especially things that you care about, you have your heart intention upon it, has the potential to grow very strong roots. This conjunction really awakens the divine feminine frequency. I mean, that's the most like it's the most potent and reactive frequency, in my opinion. It really does have its strengths. This is a world of the feminine, and slowly but surely everyone is starting to realize that it's like when you soften your hard heart, or you make spaces for this emotional honesty, you can truly grow. This is where wealth is actually held, where we can find this emotional connection to like inner peace. And our intuition is so important, right? It's always leading us into our greatest path, whether we want to listen or not, is actually always leading us to where we need to go. And it just brings this softness and just this empathy, that is deeply needed within this realm. It's so nourishing as well. And I think that this is truly like a beautiful moment to recognize where you've grown or you've outgrown, coldness, hardness, hardening the heart, even these emotional self-denial, and also like where you can expand your life into where your heart is actually leading you, not in fear, but in trusting in that intuition that was literally given to you. Woman, man, God, goddess, like we all have an intuition. We all have a voice inside of us that's trying to lead us somewhere. It's very supportive of us as well. And, this conjunction really brings heart healing, family unity. I think this home-centered abundance as well. And as I said, it's deeply nourishing, supportive. It's magnetic. This alignment is so magnetic, and it really reminds us that love is not only a feeling, it is definitely a healing force. Love is, in my opinion, the highest frequency, and it always returns tenfold when it's rooted in an emotional truth. So let's see what blessings we have for each rising sign. Hey Aries, so Aries, this alignment is happening in your natal fourth house of your home, your roots, your emotional safety, and this is going to bring blessings to your home life, your inner foundation, your emotional body, even the past, healing from the past, emotionally healing from the past. You feel more connected with your family. You feel more connected with your roots, your homeland. This is a great time for you to move, relocate, regenerate your house, reconnect with your parents, your ancestors. There's also potential for these ancestral blessings to actually show itself, or things that you have inherited from your ancestry. And this is truly about finding a space and a place or a home that actually feels like a sanctuary. And your emotional intelligence and your intuition is like your instincts. They are really strong now. Like they're on point. They're you can, you know what you're thinking and talking about and feeling, Aries, because your foundation is being rewired. And this transit is going to stir up um these ties that have to do with like your upbringing, that has to do with like your emotional inheritance that you receive from like your mother and your family, even your core values that have to do with safety. Because Venus and Jupiter in the fourth house here like magnifies your longing for peace, for home, for security. And there's a feeling of being just like emotionally held or hugged or loved, and I do think that this is the time to redefine what family means to you, because it's like you're deciding whether your life is rooted in this emotional nourishment or inherited like trauma or inherited obligation to the next person. And you're starting to see or become more aware of how your early childhood or early environment really shape your current life or shape your current patterns, even, especially when it comes to love, when it comes to intimacy, when it comes to trusting the next person, when it comes to feeling secure within the next person. This is a time for you to really be open to forgiving your parents, without like excusing, the upbringing that you had, and to mother yourself where no one else did. Hey there, Taurus. Taurus, this alignment is going to be happening in your natal third house of siblings, communication, your environment, your local environment, learning, the mind, and your words carry this emotional weight and wisdom. So you can expect good news that have to do with like this healing conversation with siblings, opportunities when it comes to writing, teaching, speaking. You may reconnect with people from your childhood or find this emotional satisfaction in storytelling. This is a powerful time or a powerful transit for healing the sibling relationships or starting these heartfelt like writing projects, speaking projects. Your daily life can feel more richer, it can feel more fulfilling. And this conjunction highlights your mental environment, also your communication style. You may begin to speak more emotionally, to share, from the heart instead of speaking logically, or just speaking, because someone may understand what you're saying. You're more so speaking to like, to connect, to uncover like your early childhood experiences, to grow and to expand your emotional or your sibling dynamics. Your community ties are even influenced, and you can see how it's influenced your self-worth and your ability to be vulnerable. And there's a healing through writing, through learning, through allowing yourself to speak truth, this emotional truth, and not just giving out like, can like information, towards, because there can be a relationship or sibling relationship or any local relationship with friends and things of that nature that can evolve, or it can like work itself out. It's the way that you talk to yourself towards, especially when you're scared, when you feel uh, kind of like when you're emotionally drained, or you feel like cut off from the next person, or you feel rejected. This is what's changing, because you're learning to soothe your own mind with gentleness instead of judgment. Hey Gemini. Gemini, this conjunction or this alignment is happening in your natal second house of your values, your self-worth, your security, your finances, your resources. And this is an abundant transit, of course, for money, for self-esteem, for your personal resources. You may attract gifts, you may attract like financial opportunities, Gemini. You can begin to value yourself more deeply, and that is how your finances and monies actually increase. there can be a job, there can be a client that can offer more than you actually expected. I think emotionally, Gemini, you're learning to trust that what you have to offer has value. And if you've been struggling with your self-worth, here is your turning point. If you've been struggling with, your security, that, your security that you find within yourself, this is a time where that's going to turn for you, Gemini. What you earn now is most likely tied to this meaningful, nurturing, or family based opportunity, because this is about how worthy you believe yourself to receive. And when Venus and Jupiter come into the second house in conjunct, here's where it brings, monies, yes, of course, but more importantly, it brings this confrontation with what you emotionally believe that you are allowed to have, that you are allowed to possess. The second house is like what we possess, and if we feel guilty, if we feel shameful, even if we feel guilty, like when the abundance arrives, maybe we didn't do as much as we thought we did, or if we hide our values, Gemini, just to please others, or is that if that's the way that you attract abundance, this is a time for you to really upgrade your inner self-worth, your inner value, so that your outer world reflects your true emotional value. Security can come or may come from if security has come from like control, if it's come from like charm, if it's come from like not putting in that much effort, just saying things, this is a time where it's going to come from you actually belonging to yourself, believing in yourself, knowing in your worth, and you are learning, Gemini, to earn from the heart and not from performance. What's up, Cancer? Finally, this conjunction is happening, and this is going to bring you a major personal blessing. And this is happening in your natal first house, Cancer, which has to do with your identity. It has to do with self-love. It has to do with your personal will, your glow up. It has to do with how you are evolving here in the physical plane. And like I said in the Jupiter and Cancer video, you weren't going to feel the blessings immediately, but Jupiter is exalted in your sign, and here's where you're going to feel that power, emotionally. When Venus and Jupiter are coming into conjunction in your sign, it gives you this magnetic aura. It gives you this charm. It gives you this emotional power that you've always needed, actually, that you've always had, but it makes you feel more confident and lovable and seen, and people are drawn to your softness, your grace. It is an amazing time to launch something that's personal, to change your appearance, and to open up your heart again, Cancer. Emotional healing is definitely going to take place, of course, but there is this body acceptance that you're going to feel, Cancer. This emotional confidence that you feel is highlighted for you. You're ready to receive. This is a rebirth of your emotional identity, Cancer. And the Venus and Jupiter conjunction is expanding your heart. It's expanding your sense of self, your intelligence, your presence. You are learning to stop shrinking emotionally for other people's comfort. And this transit is really asking you, who were you before you learned to hide your emotions, or you learned to hide your feelings in order to survive? There is a softening, of your shell, of even your auric field, and not because you're being exposed, but it's because you're being more transparent, you're being more real. You're just shedding, Cancer, this false armor, that we all put up, but really you, Cancer, because this is happening in your sign, and Jupiter, remember, is exalted in your sign, and it just feels like you are stepping into an image or a self-image that really radiates from within. And love begins when you stop performing for approval, when you start showing up as emotionally raw, real, and wise, and feeling based as you actually are, Cancer. Hey there, Leo. So, Leo, you are experiencing this transit in your natal 12th house of healing, rest, solitude. This it's also the house of the unseen, the spiritual release. This conjunction activates something deeply private within you, your subconscious, this spiritual area that has to do with the past. This can bring healing from the past, even these healing when it comes to love, when it comes to your family patterns. You may feel like crying without actually knowing why, and that is the grief and the shame and all of these emotions that we hold on to very tightly, right, Leo? Because I'm a Leo sign, I definitely get it, but it's actually leaving the body. These hidden blessings are going to come your way through dreams, through your ancestors, through your intuition. It's time for you to forgive yourself. The more that you can forgive yourself, the more you can let go. Even go to therapy if you need to. Start some type of spiritual practice. The more you can learn how to protect your peace. This Jupiter and Venus conjunction is activating something deep within your subconscious, in your unconscious. Yes, your subconscious as well, but your unconscious mind. It's like where we store memory, where we store our souls, it's like storage for the soul. And it is a really potent time for this emotional clearing, healing. And you may feel like you are just dreaming a lot, like your dreams feel like movies, they feel like memories. It has a lot of grief in it, but it also has a lot of emotion. And it's really cracking you open to patterns that once help you survive, like this emotional withdrawal, pride, avoidance even. But that's dissolving, because this is not the time for you to take action, Leo. It's actually the time to release, but it feels amazing as it's leaving your body, because it's not really you. It is actually emotional baggage that you've learned to carry, and you didn't know that you learned to carry it because you stored it in a place that you can't really see. That is our subconscious mind, right? We're recording everything, but in our conscious mind, we feel like it's not happening anymore. But it's like you had to be strong, Leo, for those things, but you don't have to be strong for everyone anymore and anything anymore. You have to be strong for yourself, and you are just healing this part of you that has carried everyone else's emotional baggage in silence. And that's the thing with having Cancer in the 12th house. This is the time for you to truly release, and this is going to have you emerging even softer, more aligned to this divine version of yourself, and more supported of the new version of yourself. You feel you're supporting yourself even more. Solitude can feel less like isolation and more like medicine for you, Leo. Hey Virgo, this conjunction and alignment is happening in your natal 11th house of friends, community, your wishes, your long-term goals. This is a house of like-minded individuals. So this is a beautiful time for you, Virgo, to form these deep friendships. And if you're not ready, in these friendships, you can start to see the value that these friendships actually hold, community supporting you, feeling like you belong emotionally. You can feel like you're surrounding yourself with people that actually feel like family. Your dreams that you've had, your long-term goals that you've had, they may start to feel much more possible, especially when it comes to like creativity, when it comes to caregiving, when it comes to emotional fulfillment. This can really start to take your shape now. Even a wish that you have had can start to show itself. You can have support from women, you can have support from these feminine energies. This really magnifies your hopes for the future, and it can also bring light to where you've disowned your dreams for the sake of being realistic, for the sake of being logical. And your emotional sensitivity in groups, around friends, and public perception is really high now. You may start to revisit these emotional wounds from being excluded, being rejected, being unseen, being misunderstood. Even when it comes to like being in groups, you're working together, but you're feeling misunderstood in the like group setting. even when it comes to like adolescence, when we're younger, you definitely feel this even more. But I feel like now, instead of trying to fit in, minimize yourself just to fit in, you are starting to lead with this emotional authenticity, and people love your heart and not just your mind. And so new friends may come, they may arrive, and they start to feel as though they're more like soul family than like just a social circle. Hey Libra. So Libra, this activation is happening in your natal 10th house. This is a powerful moment. This is a powerful alignment in your 10th house of mastery, legacy, your public path, recognition. I think this is a powerful moment for career growth, for this fulfillment that comes through your work. You could be recognized for your nurturing abilities, your nurturing qualities, or your ability to lead with compassion. You can get a new title, a new promotion. You can feel deeply fulfilling opportunities come to you. You may even open yourself up to these opportunities. Your image definitely softens, and people may see you as more approachable, more wise. If you're like a nurse, if you're like you work with women, you're caregiving, or you're doing something creative, or you're just in the healing profession, this can definitely seem lucky. It can seem like you're being asked to integrate your heart and your ambition in order to expand. Even your public life can expand, and not just from like this regular professionalism that people like to stick by. You got to be professional and you just cut your emotions off. It's you being more magnetic because of your vulnerability that these opportunities are actually coming to you. This is a perfect time for you to recognize emotionally who you truly are, and that can feel very terrifying for you, Libra, but it can also feel beautiful. It can also feel healing, like you're healing the belief that success means self-denial, being strict, or cutting your emotions off. There can be this emotional issue tied to these parental expectations, to, like I said, perfectionism, or even public, being perfect for the public. Excuse me. You can feel like legacy pressure that's actually ready to be released. And real power, Libra, you're going to feel comes now from being compassionate and not controlling the outcomes. Hey Scorpio. So Scorpio, this alignment is going to be happening in your natal ninth house of truth, of belief systems, of spiritual wisdom. And this is actually Jupiter's home. So you can expect to truly expand your emotional world view, and you're being called to really trust what you feel and not just what you prove. These old belief systems, especially the ones that you have adopted for safety, for the sense of belonging, even like having this intellectual superiority, are now dissolving because you're making room for something that's more soul rooted. The ninth house is the house of our higher self and higher consciousness. So this is a beautiful time for this emotional and spiritual travel, even soul-based studies, and returning to a more spiritual path that feels like home. Because the deepest question for you now is, what do you believe about love? What do you believe about abundance? What do you believe about care? Even marriage, are you learning that faith isn't actually intellectual? It's actually this surrender. It's an emotional surrender. It's a feeling, and you're not just expanding your mind, you are feeling your way through truth, and you're actually following your intuition as well. So Scorpio, you're opening up to this like higher wisdom that has to do with faith, that has to do with your instincts, and this transit can bring like travel. It can bring this deep spiritual insight, or an opportunity to study or teach something that is meaningful, and you could collect or connect more with the spiritual guide. You can collect a lot of spiritual wisdom, but you can connect with a spiritual guide, someone who's teaching you something, right? You can publish something that's heartfelt. You can explore a belief system that actually nourishes your soul, Scorpio. And there's a potential for long distance love, long distance travel, foreign opportunities as well. And you are expanding your mind and your heart at the same time. Hey Sagittarius. So Sagittarius, this alignment is going to be happening in your 8th house of intimacy, emotional transformation, shared resources, control. And this transit is really going to bring this deep sense of healing that have to do with your emotional trauma, your sexual bonds that you have, even sexual trauma that we experience as children. And sometimes they don't get brought to the light. They're never solved. We feel abandoned, we feel betrayed, and this is the time where you're going to learn how to transmute that pain into wisdom. You are learning on top of everything else, you're above everything else, that you have to trust again, especially in matters of intimacy, especially in matters of like shared vulnerability, emotional debt. If, like I said, if you've experienced anything like trauma or betrayal within the early childhood or even within your adulthood, this is time for you to really shed those old patterns and learn the wisdom behind what you have been through. This is a really powerful conjunction for you, Sagittarius, because it's opening you up to these deeper unions, financially, emotionally, and sometimes that means confronting our demons that have to do with our attachments, that have to do with our fear of enmeshment, that our fear of abandonment, even these subconscious relational patterns. You may feel pulled towards deeper unions, whether they're sexually, whether they're financially, spiritually, but it requires for you to shed control, defensiveness, and self-reliance. This is going to ask you to really stop hiding the softest parts of yourself, because intimacy is not about merging like identities together. It's about showing up emotionally real and trusting that the person is going to choose you and that the person is still going to love you, and let yourself be felt, let yourself be endured, and not just admired for what's on the outside or what's pretty, what others don't want to talk about. Sometimes you have to talk about those things. And that's where the transformation comes in for you, because you are releasing these patterns of old shame around what you actually need, Sagittarius. Hey there, Capricorn. So Capricorn, this is a special conjunction for you, huh? It's happening in your natal 7th house of relationships, partnerships, commitment, mirroring, and love is truly coming into your life, Capricorn, because whether you're in a relationship, whether you're looking for someone new, this transit is truly going to support devotion, mutual care, long-term emotional connection, commitment. And you may attract someone who's nurturing, wise, even emotionally available for you. Business partnerships, they can definitely blossom. And you want to remember that it's about being, it's like the more that you give from your heart, the more that you can receive. So it's about mirroring each other, give what they're giving as well. And it can be a beautiful time for, connection, as I said, even commitment, because this can be a blessing and a challenge emotionally if you are unable to do those things, or if you're not willing to do those things. And you can see yourself through someone else's eyes as well. And love and partnerships, like, they become a teacher for you now, and it can show you where you've been guarded. It can show you where you've intellectualized your needs, when you prioritize lower loyalty over connection as well. This transit can bring up these romantic and emotional abundance to another, but can also help you or get you to examine how available you truly are. Are there walls preventing you from being intimate or having the intimacy that you actually crave? Venus in the 7th house is actually great. Jupiter joining their Jupiter there as well, this is beautiful because it invites you to experience love as safety, not just a responsibility. This is the right partnership, and the right partnership will make you feel like you're at home and you don't have to earn love. You are just loved. Hey Aquarius, Aquarius, this conjunction is happening in your natal sixth house of body patterns, energetic, our energetics, our nervous system, emotional regulation, our mental mind, and you are now learning how your daily rituals, or your physical body or your emotional body or bodies are connected. Venus and Jupiter aligning here gets you to put a spotlight on patterns like overgiving, emotional burnout or perfectionism, especially when they're rooted in, childhood conditioning. This is an invitation to treat yourself with care, the same care that you give to others. Your body may begin to express is process emotions, through like fatigue, through illness, through changing of your appetite. So definitely pay attention. This transit could expand your capacity to emotionally present yourself to the next person, even when it comes to like these tiny moments, through how you speak, how you eat, how you rest, and how you talk to your body. Healing is definitely in the details now, where you have to incorporate body healing exercises every day that promote self-love, and you can improve your diet, even you can improve your sleep patterns. Your work environment may become more nurturing during this time. You can find a job that's actually aligned to how you feel, and that's actually rooted in this fulfillment through service. And this is an exciting time to actually find a work-life balance that feels more fulfilling when you're giving. You're also feeling like you're receiving as well. Even people that you work with can, the relationship can improve, and you can feel like you are working from a more heart-centered point of view. And any health issues that you could have had, like I said, fatigue, appetite changes, remember that it's all in tune with your emotional well-being. Hey Pisces, Pisces. So the fifth house is where you are getting activated by this transit. And this is a gorgeous and beautiful, fertile time for you. This is a house of creativity, it's a house of children, it's a house of pleasure, it's a house of entertainment. And Venus and Jupiter are bringing blessings through love, art, this joyful self-expression. It's bringing you romantic opportunities. They can bloom and they can feel more emotional safer. It feels like you're opening up your heart again, and if you're trying to conceive, if you are like laying down a roots to like create something creatively, this is the most greatest alignments that you can experience of the year to do so be ready to create, be ready to play, be ready to be adored. Your inner child is alive, definitely coming to life, and you have to let love and let joy guide your next steps, Pisces. This is a powerful time when it comes to healing, uh like you and the inner child, like that type of dynamic. Even when it comes to healing a relationship with the child, this activation in your fifth house can definitely be a part of learning to be seen for who you are without feeling shame. It can also bring blessings and like things that are at its core, like your heart, healing of the heart. Most importantly, it's about like reconnecting to the part of yourself that wants to be happy and wants to be joyful without apology. Because if your childhood taught you to hide your magic, this transit is definitely going to reawaken it. It's going to get you to remember your sensitivity is your genius. Your creativity is not a luxury, it's actually your birthright. You are born naturally creative, and you deserve to shine simply for being alive, Pisces.